Welcome one and all to PPUK Podcast. Tonight we've got a stripped down crew. Most of us are here, but we've got Paddy.
Hello.
We've got Andy.
Evening.
And we've got Leah.
Hi.
We're missing Lee, but we've got myself, Chopin, as well. So tonight we're going to do a little bit of an earlier. I think this is the earliest one we've reviewed so far, and it's Controversy.
Controversial.
So we're going pre-revolution, pre-MPG, so we're don't need to have any of those discussions this evening. Controversy is the earliest neutral territory. But so who wants to take off their first impression of this album? Because I believe all of us here went back to listen to this after becoming Prince fans. So this is a retrospective listen for all of us, and it kind of is a kind of an even playing field.
Well, I can give you my intro story to Controversy because it's quite specific.
God.
So yeah, I got into Prince in '88, and I had a friend at school, having seen Purple Rain, and I had a friend at school who gave me a copy of Purple Rain and Sign of the Times and Love Sexy, which was an interesting experience because I obviously loved Purple Rain straight away. Sign of the Times was really good, and I didn't get Love Sexy straight away, which was part of the ultimately brilliant journey with the album. But what that did point me in the direction of doing was, I thought, well, I'm going to start buying his stuff, obviously. So we had a record shop, a little independent, grotty, but exciting sort of Aladdin's Cave record shop in Huddersfield called Big Tree Records. And I wandered in there, and the lad, and I went, I very rarely do this in like a music capacity when I'm going to shops. In the past, pre-stream, this is quite a long time ago, technologically speaking. But I said, oh, well, I've just got into Prince. This is what I've heard so far. If you were to recommend a couple of albums, what would they be? Oh. So he didn't even hesitate, and he brought out Dirty Mind and Controversy from behind the counter sort of thing, or to hand, wherever they were, and said, right, try these. So I went away and did just that, and heard this earlier magic of this guy coming into being. And that was kind of how I heard it the first time. What about you, Sheps?
This is one of those ones where I listened to, a friend had made a cassette of it, like a cassette copy of it. So I kind of listened to it without artwork, without liner notes, without context of whereabouts in the journey it may be. So I think I listened to this just after I listened to Parade. So it was kind of, he's going, okay, so you've listened to Parade. Have you listened to Controversy? It's like, no, I haven't listened to Controversy. Here, listen to Controversy. And listening back to it, it was just like, okay, so this is quite, again, another different sound, a more stripped down sound. It was like, so I've gone from quite a bombastic Prince that I'd been listening to for quite some time, like with, say, Symbol, Parade, even Come. They're quite big sounding. There's a lot going on. I hadn't been, and even with Purple Rain, there's one or two stripped down songs, but there's a lot going on. So this was one of those ones that was just like, okay, this is very stripped down. It's like kind of, I mean, I guessed right in thinking this must have been before all of that. But yeah, that was my initial listen was like, this is different again. And I think I'd listened to it just before 1999. I can't remember which one I listened to first, but I remember having the same kind of impression of them, of being, I should think these are, because I'm listening like mid-90s, I'm thinking I should think these are dated, but I completely think they're cool.
Yeah.
Andy, what was your first listen?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I got into Prince on Sign of the Times for reals. And I've got a feeling that, the first thing you do is play that thing to death. And the second thing you do is, what else can I get? So you start looking for that through the back catalogue. And then it's always really interesting because you find things that you had, wow, he went from there to here, where I came in on. And I've got a feeling that Controversy, this might be a false memory, but it was quite cheap compared to some of the other ones on tape, like in HMV at the time. Like Controversy was like more like $3.49, and like Around the World might have been more like $4.49, and Parade might have been more like $5.49. So you're like, hey, I can get this one and I can get that other one, Dirty Mind, and it's not too expensive when you're a kid. $3.49 is a lot of money.
I remember there being a cassette where you could have Dirty Mind and Controversy on the same cassette, I believe.
That is true. I don't think I ever had that, guy, but that there was a double pack of those two albums. But like the fact that it was black and white, but it was cheap, it looked nasty, and sorry, it's not black and white. I'm thinking of Dirty Mind, but it just looked garish, and it looked kind of cheap and funky, and like, what is this thing? And I know what it is. It was the fact that the tape wasn't. That's exactly what I'm thinking. The tape just had a picture of the square album sleeve on it, and the rest of it's black.
It was black, yeah.
So like that
yes.
that gives it this kind of really like almost dangerous, exciting bootleg, dirty look. So I came to it like that, and I think it would. I mean, I'm about to get into the music, but that's fair because this album starts with a punch that just tells you, oh, hello, you're mine now, right? So like whatever you were expecting, like you've got the sublimity of everything on Sign of the Times, and he's gone around the musical, stratosphere twice and a half on that album. And then you put Controversy on. I wonder what he used to be. Bang, 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 bang. Oh, okay. Techno before it existed. Great. So we know that now, right? So I remember this as being like, yeah, okay. Dangerous, dirty side. That's where this bit of Prince came from. And years later, I wrote, I think this is a great way to start talking about Controversy as well. In the NME once did, I think it was NME, did a roundup of Prince's albums in the mid-90s and a retrospective reviews. And whoever got the job of reviewing Controversy said his first mad album. And I think that's absolutely right in that it introduces all the wacky kind of weird political funk stuff that there's a hint of it on Party Up on Dirty Mind. But it is. But no, now we're talking about. Sorry, that's my in. I think of Controversy as Prince's first mad album. It added something new to the mix.
Leah.
While you guys were talking, I was trying to think like what was my actual introduction. My first introduction to Prince was the Purple Rain album and the Syracuse VHS. And then after that, it was the 1999 album. And then the 80s albums after that came in a little cluster for me because when my dad realised that I was hooked on Prince, because he listened to everything. He has a really wide range taste in music. And I kind of hooked on Prince. So when I used to go and see him, I used to see him every other weekend. There was a really big HMV in the train station where he used to meet me. And as a little treat, we used to go into HMV and look at the Prince section. And every 2 weeks, we'd buy a new Prince CD, which very quickly became more and more challenging to try and find one that we didn't have. But after Purple Rain and 1999, it will have been in those clusters. There's a sale that they still do now, like 2 for a tenner, and it would have been one of those. But it's hard for me to talk about the impact it had because I had all this music around me so often. So when people say statements like, oh, it's a weird album, or, oh my God, When Doves Cry didn't have a bass, like, that's crazy. I'm like, I don't hear that because it was considered normal to me at the time. Because none of this was happening live for me. I wasn't around when Doves Cry came out or when Controversy came out. So it was just normal music that kind of surrounded me as a kid. But one thing that always strikes me about the album is I feel like if out of all of his early albums, I think you can pin pretty much everything he became is somewhere in that album, whether it be the lilac trench coat, whether it be the politics, whether it be the sounds, whether it be subject matters, it's all in there. I feel like the boy was becoming the man that we later known, and it's a really transitional album. So that's one of the main things I remember, kind of going from Purple Rain back to that, I remember looking at the visuals and listening and going, oh, that's where this came from. That's how this happened.
I think the word transitional really does fit in with this album so well.
Just what I was going to say. Yeah.
Does everyone here think that it's like it is a pair with Dirty Mind in their heads? Because I've always considered, not the fact it was put on the same tape once, but I always feel like Dirty Mind and Controversy, they're brother and sister, you know.
But I think I think the reality is it has as much sort of symbiosis with 1999 in certain ways as it does with Dirty Mind, and it's definitely a stepping stone. It's an adjoining piece. I mean, it's a devastatingly obvious thing to say. As you guys know, I've kind of been pushing to do the 1999 Deluxe version because a big part of that for me is the stuff from the studio that's on the Vault CDs. Basically, you can hear the songs that he did, which were similar to stuff on Controversy, and it was a possible direction. But he decided not to do that direction. And song number 4, I think, had a considerable amount to do with the direction he went in, which is what we heard on don't be looking now, listeners, you can see me. They're all looking. They should know which number 4 is. No, I wouldn't know. But no, so yeah, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think I'd say it owes as much and it's a companion piece to 1999 as well for different reasons. But I think weirdly from a personal perspective, Andy, the fact that I got them both at the same time, that twins them for me as well. But that's a very personal thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I think of it as more married to... I see Controversy 1999 Purple Rain as sort of like a purple trench coat trilogy, right? And that's how I see those things. I see kind of like this For You, Prince, and Dirty Mind as finding the way. Controversy 1999 Purple Rain as perfecting the way. And from Around the World in a Day onwards, he's flying.
That's fascinating because there's a hell of a paradigm shift between Prince and Dirty Mind. I wouldn't say there's a paradigm shift between Dirty Mind and Controversy.
You wouldn't, no?
No.
Exactly. That, for me, I parse it differently, right? I would definitely go first 2 albums, an artist finding his feet within the soul, R&B, funk, pop tradition. Dirty Mind, okay, now it's new. Now it's a breakthrough. Now it's a radical new synthesis of stuff, yeah?
Dirty Mind was the most important album he ever released.
Definitely.
But we'll get to that another time.
I would agree I would agree with everything you just said. It was just a kind of, I think there was once, I still think it was, because it was the first step, it was still that 3 finding your way. By the time it started Controversy, he already had the way, whereas Dirty Mind was still kind of... You're entitled to your wrong opinion, as usual, Chopin. I can't see a Dirty Mind as anything other than a quantum leap, a paradigm shift, as Paddy says. And then, to me, that
I have to agree.
Yeah, sorry, Chopin. So you'll have to go away and think on that one.
I didn't say it wasn't a quantum leap in paradigm shift. I just said that it was still... like, when he starts out Dirty Mind, I don't think he sets out to make Dirty Mind in that sense. He just creates and then Dirty Mind comes out of it. Controversy is the first one where he's got that sound and he's going forward to make it a pop.
On Controversy has established a sound which you can hear all 3 previous albums a little bit.
Exactly. Where
I think it's more commercial. I feel like it was more commercial in mind as well in comparison.
That's my point, is that the first 3 albums, he's working out the sound. He settles on Dirty Mind as the most important and then kind of works those 3 sounds together into what becomes Purple Rain over 3 albums.
I agree.
It's the first one where he has the Dirty Mind sound as as a cannon in his arsenal.
Okay, I see it as assembling. Right, again, the big jump is like, oh, I can do something stripped down, radical, modern, and different and shocking, and that's Dirty Mind. And then what I liked about NME saying that Controversy is his first Mad album is, to me, that Dirty Mind is like X% of the equation, And then Controversy adds the kind of, I am off my rocker socio-politically, right, in a cool way.
Yes.
And then those two things together are the basis for the next big synthesis, no pun intended, some pun intended, of 1999. Like sex plus crazy motherfucker.
Yeah.
Plus, that's 1999. But anyway, I like that we've started on Controversy. We've gone back in time. Now, let's go back to the 18th century. Now, in the 18th century, music was very much, of course, only a performed act, and there weren't any... Sorry, let's carry on.
Well, also, you got to remember there's elements of this that do predate the 18th century in the Lord's Prayer. So...
Chopin and Prince win. This album does feature some very ancient lyrics.
This Controversy is sound archaeology. Archaeology. No, sorry. But yes, agreed, that first boom when it comes in. So with that, go back to the initial song, that first song, Controversy, title track.
Yeah, can I just leap in and talk about that? Wow, that's
yes.
Because it occurred to me in saying that, that's like, that's like A Hard Day's Night for the Beatles. That first chord, when there's a very, very, very famous chord at the start of A Hard Day's Night. And like musicologists have been arguing about what's in that chord forever, so it's a different discussion. But or it's like a Rolling Stone. You have the whip crack, and Prince is doing an electronic update of that big opening statement of intent with Controversy. It just occurred to me.
Yeah,
it's true.
Prince in his pomp was brilliant, as we know. At the first second of a single or a pop single by Prince in the 80s would announce itself with the guitar scratch of Kiss or the ow of Alphabet Street, later on Same and Get Off, the opening of When Doves Cry, and of course just on Controversy it's about as minimal as you get, just wow. But he was great at that. It just cuts through everything. Whatever you're doing, that comes on the radio. Oh, hello, do I have your attention? Yes, I do. This is going to be brilliant.
Yeah, and he's still doing it later in the career in things like Daisy Chain as well. Absolutely.
You know what I liked going back to that version is how raw it is. I feel like I got so used to hearing the later live versions that were slightly more Vegas and more sugar-coated. Yeah, and I love those, and they're a groove.
I do too.
And I will shake my butt to those, but this does like the funk face, like the lips go with this version. You're like, damn. It just has that essence, and kind of going back to the conversation we were having before, it's the reason I can't quite link this as tightly to 1999 as I can Dirty Mind. It hasn't got that sugar coating. It's got this rawness that just is maintained on those two albums. And my favorite bit of this whole version is his vocal percussion part. Mm-hmm. Does anyone else know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Ooh.
Yeah. Prince on vocal drums. Every time, as soon as you hear it, I don't know if all of you have kind of picked up on it, but as soon as you hear it, you can't unhear it. And it's Prince going, oof, every 8 bars.
Yep.
So
if you haven't picked up on that, go back and definitely listen. But for me, it's not there in the live versions.
I'm doing the same thing Paddy's doing. I'm thinking, am I sure that that's not like a tuned Tom on the loop?
No.
Is it definitely?
It's
okay,
him.
I'll have to have another listen to that.
Ooh. I've heard that for sure. The thing about Controversy is it's classic Prince because it's I've talked about this before. It's like he cuts his cloth and then he just designs on it symmetrically and mathematically and progresses from idea to idea at his leisure. So it's a very, very simple piece of canvas he's unrolled here, and then he just weaves on it. But also, for something that's supposedly quite minimalistic, the attention to detail and the things that are woven into it, the fact that we're talking about this oof sound and 2 out of the 4 of us are going, I don't know what bit we're talking about, maybe. Like, it's still very, very rich with detail and texture, even though it sounds very, very simple at first hearing.
But that's that thing that he learned how to do so well, as I think you've described it in other chats as coding so much sound and coding so much sonic information into a piece, and he does it so well here. And there's a reason there's a million different house mixes of this, because it is futuristic, you know.
There's a line, a kind of half serious line, which is that house and techno was just everybody. It basically was like people just wanting to be Prince. Yeah, right. Like, it was like it's too simplistic an idea, and it's too much for to give him all of that. But like, there was this kind of, well, we couldn't play all the other stuff, but we just wanted to do something like Prince. Was the like controversy stands up after all these years as proto techno. And when I've taken when I took sometimes some non big Prince fans, just casual Prince fans, to see Prince at like the O2 and stuff. Yeah. Controversy was always the song that made them really sit up and go, God, this is ultra modern even now.
Hot Farm, it was stunning, because he did this whole piece about like old school make noise, new school like make noise, and like different bits, and it was just like this kind of this entire kind of lesson of like what sounds were in common between the old school and the new school. It was fantastic. It is some of it is a kind of a little bit like kind of a mix of James Brown and Gary Newman at the same time. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like you've got like those kind of slinky chicken grease guitars that are just stunning. And then you've got those synth hits like that. The way that, like, you know, that da 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 da, it's the bit where it goes da. That's the sound of that synth, that saw that cuts through, is great.
What do we like, Gary Brown or James Newman?
James Newman.
James Newman, I like it. Gary Brown sounds pretty cool too, though.
And then James Newman sounds like an accountant. Welcome to James Newman accountancy firms.
Gary Brown sounds like an NFL player to me.
This is true.
I've got a question for you about this song, because there's like 7.5 minutes or whatever it is, 8 minutes maybe, of pure pumping, like monomanic Prince, really, right? It's a manifesto. It talks about everything. Actually, let's talk about that separately. What I was going to ask you was kind of what Leah started, which is, what is your one favourite moment of this song, or one favourite detail, or is it one motif like Leah has? Or because I know my favourite moment of this song, it's a one-off thing.
Ooh, I'm going to have to think, so you feel free to go ahead with yours, because I'm going to have to think on that one.
All right, I put you on the spot because I know my answer. Paddy?
Thing about this song for me, bear with me, I will come to what you're asking. Thing about this song for me is, if somebody asked me, okay, I want to, if the challenge was for anybody to listen to one song to understand what Prince was about and what his baseline fundamentals were, it would be this song. It wouldn't be Purple Rain. It wouldn't be When Doves Cry. Wouldn't be Kiss. Wouldn't be 1999, Most Beautiful Girl in the World.
Yeah.
Cream. None of those. It'd be this song. This song is that fundamental funk, Prince sort of style funk. It speaks to pretty much everything he does. All the other genres he usually plays with a funky shine. Pretty much everything. I can think of very, very, very little that doesn't have a funk swing feel to it, whether it's the rocky stuff, the jazzy stuff, the electronic stuff, and so on and so forth. So for me, this is the one and only archetypal Prince track. And I absolutely love it for that. It is one of my favourite Prince tracks. I do like the earlier live versions as well. My absolute favourite version of this live is the one on the Controversy tour itself, which is different, not too different from the one on the 1999 tour, except it's more pacey and it works really well. But my favourite, to come back to Andy's point. Sorry, Andy, I meandered there a little bit.
No.
So subsequently, and perhaps not unsurprisingly with it being me, my favourite part of this is you've got this incredible song, which is basically just all happening around an E, going and that is Prince. And again, from a guitarist point of view, forget his soloing. His soloing's great. As somebody Chopin and I have talked to recently, he has a great touch when he's soloing. But the bottom line with Prince is his rhythm playing is utterly sublime. So my favourite bit of the song is that E on that quick 16th rhythmic E. Brilliant.
That's a great call.
I think my Prince vocal, and also when it drops into the Lord's Prayer and you've got the keyboard slams in the middle of it.
That's enormous, isn't it? That I've got a lot of favourite parts in this song. I realised after I asked the question. That bit is... Sorry, Leah, expound on that. That's amazing.
It is literally just the funk bass. And I feel like every hardcore fan knows exactly when they're coming. Because if you've never heard that song before, you don't know they're coming. There's not a build-up. They're just there.
you know, that always got me as well. Because, like, obviously, right, rock and roll and religion, you know, they've got an intertwining but sometimes very separate existence, right? And, you know, it's very square in pop music to talk about God, but it can be very hip in Black American music to talk about God, right? But Prince comes out with the Lord's Prayer, which, come on, it's square, but he turns it, but like he starts off with it, he does it in this incredibly funky monotone, which is just like a scary super sex God future, and then it's give us this day, wow, oh, okay, it's not square. It's absolutely the squelchiest thing you've ever heard.
Yeah. He's recorded it in a way that sounds so square. When you listen to the vocal, he's not trying to funk up that vocal. He's not trying to make the Lord's Prayer sound cool. When you actually listen to it, he is singing it just flat. It is literally like people are in church, really bored, singing the Lord's Prayer. And it's only when those keyboards come in, it's almost like, I think it was Beverly Knight that says the tectonic plates rubbing together. It's like the squared boredness with this nasty funk underneath that just kind of give you Prince somewhere in the middle.
That's great. I think that always gets me as well.
I've got a moment, and it's come to me. It's the bit where, you know, like do I believe in God? Do I believe in you? And it's the bit where there's a little guitar in the background that goes da 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 da, and it's just like this stuff. The moment that kind of down da da, and that lift turns back into controversy. Boom.
Yes,
I love the way that lift comes back down onto the groove. It's just, there's so many 1 moment, 2 seconds in there, that, like, whether it be that guitar like down down, and it just as like let me tell you, it's like
this song is perfection. The more we talk about it, it's perfection. And I love that drop as well. I love all the bits you've mentioned, all of them. I love everything about this song. There's not 1 nanosecond that I do not think could have been done better, and that I think could have been done better in this song, rather. My ones are right back in the mix before People Call Me Rude. Listen. Just before he goes, People Call Me Rude, you know? He goes, listen. You know what I'm talking about? Chopin hasn't heard it.
No, I haven't heard it.
Oh, it was.
I've obviously been too busy dancing around the room to this song.
I've heard that, but I'm listening for oof.
I've heard the oof. I've worked it out. Yeah, I think it is a vocal oof, actually.
Oh, it definitely is.
Okay.
You've never heard the listen. He's telling you to listen, and you never listened to the listening. Maybe he should have had a previous listen saying, listen to this listen.
Do you want me to mute while I listen?
Yeah, I do, actually. Right. I'll carry on talking, because that's what I do. There's a riff right near the end. It's probably in the last 30 seconds or something, where it just goes, and you just think, oh, okay, that's a riff. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Any other artist would have happily used that as the basis for their entire track. You just threw in an extra bloody sweetie in the last half minute. And you used it how many times, Prince? Once. Why? Because you're a genius.
Because you could.
And you know what? Probably is a song in the vault that's built around the 1 second.
Honestly, yes, it might be, might not be. But the point is just like what he put out was just, I'm going to give this to you once as one final curlicue on this track, one final detail, just to address something that Paddy said about this being the archetypal Prince song. Absolutely, in terms of lyrics, it is as well, because it's a manifesto. It's Prince standing at all the crossroads that he built his mystique on. Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he traded on for the next 1,000 years, is it not?
Yeah. Do I believe in God? Do I believe in me?
Yeah.
I when you said that, it's just like, absolutely. No matter what our favorite songs and what our favorite eras are, but I think you're right in that it does come like this displays everything. You can take it from. I mean, we've talked here many times about the Prince song tree, where one song begats another song, this riff begats another riff, and even if the actual riffs don't stem from this, I think the flow of the career and who he becomes, you can trace all of those elements back into this song, and what an opener. What an opener for an album.
So out of 10, I'd say 6 out of 10, pretty good.
Just another couple of things about the song, if I could. There is also, and a little bit about the album, just again, things are flying into my mind. The album and parts of the song, I think, are looking inwards and parts of the song are looking outwards. I think the main difference between this album and the three that preceded it are, in many ways, it is the first time he's sort of sneaking his eyes over the wall and having a proper look at the world. And I think it is speaking outwardly a lot more. So that's one thing that makes it very different from the other three. And the other thing is he does the chants thing. The people call me rude, I wish we all knew, like a chant. Then in Sexuality, he's got a chant, reproduction of the new Free Leader stand-up. And I love those. And then there are various sort of slightly atonal, I don't know, Annie Christian, the way that he presents it is kind of atonal as well. Yeah, that's something I can't think of. The only other place prior to it would possibly have been Dirty Mind, but there's nothing on Dirty Mind I think of like that.
On Dirty Mind, you're gonna have to fight your own devil.
So you've got these chant thing coming through as well, which I really like about it. That'll do. That and the other thing, of course, is the big fat Juno sounding. That's just brilliant through a live PA wherever you are, and it works beautifully. First time my keyboard player nailed that, I had a massive smile on my face when I heard that.
I thought you were going to say a massive something else. Let's move on.
That too. Yeah, that too.
Every time I buy any kind of audio listening device, whether it be headphones, speakers, whatever, Controversy is the first song I play to test if it's good or not.
Oh, that's brilliant. I do the same, but with Kiss. My one is Kiss.
Mine is Controversy, followed by Sign of the Times.
Oh, that's great. Are you into Prince? Hey, baby, you single?
Next song.
Sexuality. Sorry. Now it all sounds. Now everything sounds really.
We thought we were changing the subject.
and wait till we get to track 3. I am so sorry. I'll just leave now. Okay. Hey, this is Prince we're talking about, yeah? So this is going to happen.
This is one of my favourite Prince songs, is Sexuality, as well. I absolutely... Oh. I've had, no pun intended, a few controversial conversations. That was difficult to get out, controversial conversations, with a few people about this, because some people seem to be of the mind that's a little bit throwaway, and I don't think it is. I think that percussive intro is absolutely fantastic and pretty different all round in the way that it's kind of built on that sort of percussive vibe with a very, very percussive a single chord motif in a similar way to the single chord motif in Controversy. But yeah, no, and it always surprised me why this didn't get a lot more live airplay. I mean, if you look back at bootlegs, there are a few fantastic versions of this. Obviously, it resurfaced as Spirituality on the Vegas run and so on and so forth. But and I think that I think at the beginning of the Controversy tour, they opened with this. I'm sure there's a Washington gig where it opens with this, which is a superb set. I wish the quality was better, but yeah, I never really got it. But this is I don't think I've said it for a few podcasts. This is a banger.
Who thought that this was a throwaway song? I addresses, names.
Yeah. I've had band input to this degree about this.
I'm a peaceful man, but come on, there's limits. Sorry, Andy. You were saying.
I was just going to start talking about this song because I'm never, ever anything than delighted to hear, other than delighted to hear Sexuality. It always sounds fresh to me. It's definitely like a hidden gem because it definitely never got any exposure beyond the album. Really, very, very, for whatever reason, Prince just never really revisited it. But
I feel like it's a hidden gem even amongst fans. Like even now, as I'm thinking about the track, it's a brilliant track, but it's not even one that me as a fan. I don't come back to it, and I don't know why.
I mean, I don't know. I think it just slips under the radar because it's between two very long statement pieces that are kind of, different. I know one of us at least isn't going to enjoy Do Me Baby because I know the person here who doesn't like it, and I'm not looking at Chopin at all right now. But Do Me Baby is we'll get to in a minute, is a pillar of his ballad building in the same way that Controversy is a pillar and foundation of his funk sound. And in between that, you have this funny little kind of curate's egg of a thing. I think the interplay between the electronic drums and the electronic bass, synth bass on this song is just outstanding. Like the bass pushes the drums, pushes the bass, pushes the drums, and they just interlock so beautifully. And it's done at a very staccato kind of ever-moving rhythm. There's so much going on in this song, and again, just nothing is anything other than sublime for me in this number.
That synth bass is phenomenal. The guitars on the breakdown at the end are just perfection. Just perfection. Yeah, like the way that this rises and falls. It's got a cool video as well. I don't know why this isn't bigger. It's possibly my favorite song on the album.
Amazing.
Even though Controversy is an amazing song, but if we're talking about what kind of gets the adrenaline flowing, the kind of the percussive dun 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 dun, like when he to the point where I didn't like it when he changed his lyrics to more spiritual things. Like 23.
No one did. Let's face it. No one did.
The Christ or 23 Inscriptions and One Night Stand. But
I hate Christ so much.
But when he played this on the 21 Nights, like he did one of the after shows when it was just like him, Cora, and Josh like doing the guitar thing. He done this he done Calhoun Square, and then he done this like Spirituality. And I'm telling you, I didn't even care. I didn't even care that he changed the lyrics. I was just happy he was playing the riffs because like this had needed much more of an airing, and if he had to change the lyrics to get this little groove out there, then so be it, because it's so frigging good. It's so good.
And the video was filmed same session as Controversy, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It's the same setup.
I love those videos as well. There's a rock band once said, if we're doing a video, what else do you want to see if it's not just us playing? It's like, it's all right, all these elaborate videos with special effects, and some of them good, but in the end, what do you want to see? You want to see the artist playing with his band, and I do rather like that, and I love those sort of lights that were bright, but sort of cotton wool round the sides a little bit. The sort of style of light was very glary, and I absolutely, again, I'm not one to go for the outfits that much, but I love the Prince look on Controversy, particularly the black top that he has with this proto frills, but not full. Yeah. I love all that. I think he looks that's amazing Prince look for me. Anyway.
Did someone say there was a Sexuality video? Have I forgotten it? If there wasn't, no.
He takes he strips all of his shirt off and he's kind of shaggy head.
But why did he make a video? I'm having a senior moment a few years ahead of my time. He made Sexuality wasn't a single.
It was in Japan. I think Controversy was the B-side in Japan. I think on the
he released Sexuality as a single in Japan in 1981.
And who
is this guy?
And there's a Dutch 12-inch. Well, which sounds like a euphemism in itself. But
hold on, there's a 12-inch. There's not a 12-inch of sexuality, not a 12-inch version.
But it's a 12-inch, but I don't think it's a 12-inch version.
Because I'm starting to think, have I ever listened to this dude?
But there's a picture sleeve 12-inch and there's a picture sleeve 7-inch.
I think Leah's just posted the video for me. Thanks. I'll take a look. I must have seen it. I've forgotten more Prince than most people can remember, of course. So, but like. I want to get back to the song for a moment. I'm having this is the funnest album to talk about already, is it not? But I want to say that like we have to talk about the spoken word interlude in this song, because this is bats, isn't it? This is why Enemy calls it the first Mad album. This sort of business, because it's suddenly Prince is railing against what Frank Zappa called the pajama people. Basically straights, right? And Prince's version for the pajama people is tourists. And we are off, aren't we? We are off on one.
We're talking about favourite moments of each song with controversy. I think my favourite bit is, what? No flash again?
I mean, I also like 3 - 3, absolutely nothing.
With the Elvis little weird thing at the end.
Yeah. And then, Mama, are you listening? What? It's terrifying.
With that, when that Mama, are you listening? There's that guitar that.
Wow!
It's so good.
This is a psychological freak out. This is an urban freak out on record.
And that whole "no child is bad from the beginning."
Atmosphere.
See, this is so good. I told you, this is so good. This song.
This never does anything except put lead in my pencil. That's for sure.
Absolutely could not subscribe to the idea of a sort of strangely hidden in plain sight gem. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic,
definitely,
and so good, so good that 22, 23 years later, he uses it for his Jehovah's Witness jazz album as the call, like we need production of a new breed leader stand up, organized. And, he uses it on the Rainbow Children. When he decides to go like full on Jehovah's Witness, it's just like, what does he go back to? The call and response, like the call from sexuality. It's like,
guys, unless I'm forgetting something else, is this or is this not the birth of the Prince hour?
I was just thinking that. I can't think of an hour anywhere else prior to this. So I think you're right. I'm
pretty sure this is it. This is the one.
And on the kind of Prince tree, I know you were saying like after this is Do Me Baby, which is a ballad foundation. There's a synth funk foundation and controversy. But I think like oddities like Strange But True, it have a little bit of their kind of roots in songs like this and other songs on this album, the kind of synth play arounds.
This track speaks back to Dirty Mind a little bit more for me, with those it's stark in terms of chordal, no sort of deep, colourful chordal nature. It's one guitar, one guitar chord, and predominantly a rhythmic drive. So it is kind of linked. And like you say, it does speak to oddities. If you think of songs like It really does work in that sense, without a doubt, yeah.
If I love Dirty Mind as the album. I think it's a stunning piece of work, and I think it's an important piece of work. I think maybe things I said earlier on maybe made it sound like I didn't. But this song gives me so much more serotonin than the songs on that album, and I love that album, and that album gives me a lot of serotonin. But this particular song is just out there. I mean, I didn't think anybody else would want to talk about it as much as I did, so I'm very happy about that.
Moving on to Do Me Baby.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear, here we go.
Here we go. Here come the fights and tears.
So Private Joy, it's a great song. I love
that. I think there's something you need to get out of the way here, Chopin. Go on.
Okay. Full admission, I think this is one of his worst songs ever. I think it's incredible. No, I think it's one of the least interesting songs he ever did. I feel it's completely antiseptic from a sexual point of view. I think it's kind of complete by numbers balladeering. I think he'd done more interesting stuff earlier. So I get that it's a foundation and it's considered so great. And it's nice being in a room when he sang this and hearing all of the high-pitched voices screaming and feeling off that excitement. But on record, it falls completely dead for me. Even the little kind of groovy little kind of thumb pull of that boom boom couldn't save the lack of energy for me. So okay, you my execution is when? Guys, go ahead. Tear me apart.
Go on, Paddy. I can see that you're sizzling.
I'm not. Again, I don't naturally gravitate towards the ballads. When I think of Prince ballads, I find it very, very difficult to get any further than the beautiful ones, if I'm honest. And stuff like Adore, etc. But this one, I don't have quite the same reaction to this one as Chopin, actually. It's a strange one. It never completely landed with me, but I like it for what it is. It feels a very organic sexual ballad. And I think it, as you've said yourself, it showcases his voice and his falsetto brilliantly. And it builds nicely. And it sounds like a band piece. It's one of those tracks. It sounds like the band have inputted into the general sort of drive of it.
Paddy, can I interject something?
Yeah, I quite like it.
And there's something is kind of, I was thinking as you were speaking, I think if Sexuality was the 7-minute track and this was the 4-minute track, I wouldn't have such a problem with it.
I'd prefer that.
Exactly. Wouldn't that be so much better? 7 minutes of that Sexuality breakdown, and then 4 minutes of Do Me Baby, and this would have been an okay track.
Be careful what you wish for, though, right? Because I know you people, because you're saying, oh, some of the tracks on 1999 are too long, right? If Sexuality was 7 minutes, would it be everything it is for you now? Sometimes less is more.
Well, I've listened to a 10-minute version of Computer Blue and a 10-minute version of Thunder that begs to differ, and a 21-minute version of America that begs to differ.
Yeah,
so
but what do you think? What do you think of
what
do you think of Automatic? I love the length of Automatic, but some people don't.
Automatic is one I think a little. Automatic is a little too long.
A little too long. All I'm saying is
30 seconds rather than like 2 minutes or so.
I'm just saying, be careful, man. If a 7-minute Sexuality ever turns up, I'd be the first in line to. Well, maybe.
In all fairness, I would rather be disappointed by Do Me Baby, something that I was already disappointed by, than Sexuality. So maybe you're right, but I just wouldn't have this reaction to Do Me Baby if it was 4 rather than 7.
In all seriousness, you've always got to ask yourself, is it longer than a Dutch 12-inch? Sorry. Right. I can't get past that comment.
You're not sorry at all. Sorry, guys, it's been hot here lately and we're all
Leah looks very disappointed with us.
She looks very matronly at this moment.
I do have a point to make, but my neighbours just started doing some building, so you might have to crop around it. But as a woman, if there is a sex song on a Prince album, I want all the minutes I can get. That's all I'm saying. So longer the better.
Okay.
Good response. What can you say?
That's absolutely fair.
I think if we've got Chopin as the person who doesn't like it, I'm happy to be the guy who's sort of in the middle ground with it. Which to me is probably half saying I like it because I'm not that keen on ballads as a rule. So I'd say it's probably in my top 5 Prince ballads.
I love this track. I love it. I think it's better live. I will definitely give you that one. The way I fell in love with this was the Syracuse version. Excuse the banging downstairs.
Excuse you.
Excuse the banging.
I think it's appropriate given the song that we're listening to, so talking about.
But yeah, the way I fell in love with this song was the Syracuse performance. I don't think that version of this track could be topped. I'm not a fan of the Parade Tour version with the like I didn't like that version with the weird guitar bit personally. But I do love the track. I think the length of it is absolutely fine. But I think you have to kind of take it for what it is. I don't think it's one of those songs that you're meant to sit and intently listen to every single moment of it. For me, it's one of those kind of Prince dreamlike tracks, kind of the same as Dorothy Parker. But with Dorothy Parker, the lyrics grip you, get pulled into that story a little bit more. But for me, it's just one of those grooves that kind of sinks into your subconscious. It's not one that I sit and listen to every waking moment of. But I 100% agree. It's better live on pretty much any version, to be honest. But I love it, and I'm not mad that it's 7 minutes, and I think it's well placed in the general structure of the album.
I will give you that guitar solo that Miko does on the new tour version is pretty stunning. When that extended guitar, he does really good guitar work. I just kind of I just wished it ended at the end of the solo.
Do you know the version I mean on the Parade tour?
No, which is probably a bad sign, right?
Yeah,
I know which bit you mean on the Parade tour. Yeah,
and they do it for ages before the vocal comes in.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm not.
Does it do it kind of like a step da 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 da? Like kind of like a step with the horns. Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, it's like when something steps on a track you like, you really notice it. But if it steps on a track you don't like, well, you're already kind of just listening just to listen to the whole thing.
I can't imagine a bad bar of music on the Parade tour, so I have to go back and revisit that because I can't recall what you're talking about. But some of you should be ashamed of yourselves. I'm just going to say that right now. This is Do Me Baby, guys. This just as controversy, like I said, was a foundation of of the Prince skyscraper. Do Me Baby is the Uber template or the template or the first mover for all the great big ballads that were to come, and it was the template for the live part, for the part of the live act where he becomes the lover man and the seducer and the comedian. And
totally. We wouldn't have had.
I agree with that.
We wouldn't have had International Lover. We wouldn't have had Electric Man. I don't think we'd have had any of that.
This is the prime mover, exactly. Electric Man, slowing it down, screwing around. Later on the couch, satisfied, yeah, and
Question of you,
everything. I love Prince ballads live. Yes and no. I mean, but it's a part. But they're not my favourite parts of tours necessarily. But some of them are, and also they were a massive part of what he did, and they were a massive part of Prince showing you that I will go from this to that to this to that, and when he famously said about the Joshua Tree, wasn't it, that won the 87 Grammy or whatever, and he said, well, yeah, you two can do that, but will they then go and play Housequake after they've done that rock song, So Prince and ballads, that was Prince covering all bases and being the funky guy, the pop star, the gospel dude, the spiritual visionary, and the seducing soul lover.
I feel like I'm being told off by the teacher, like the bunch of kids have been really naughty. Would you show some respect to our guest, please?
No, it's all up for grabs. Like I said, you're perfectly entitled to be quite that wrong. And no, it's all good, man. Honestly, so apart from anything else, Do Me Baby, is canon, is prime canon for that reason. But it's also a brilliant, brilliant song. The tune is brilliant. The synths that start coming into it are so lush and synthetic. It's funny as hell. There's that line. Sorry, go on, Paddy.
No, I was good. You said about the synths are indeed lush, and that sort of electronic synthetic synth sound, the way it mixes with a very natural, slightly wet sounding piano, it really, really works well. Does that? It really is.
This is soft porn, in the best way. And this is it's practically recorded on VHS tape. It's great. And it's, this is a funny song. And that line is so porn near the start where he goes, bring out what's been in me for far too long. That's barely a double entendre, that's a single entendre really, isn't it? And it's funny. He starts whispering about, I'm going to make not going to stop till the war's over. It's just an insane gag done brilliantly by a world-class songwriter, performer and balladeer, and it absolutely slaps hard, guys. So there.
It's
Mic drop. Bang.
I think there's earlier ballads that I actually like more, like When We're Dancing Close and Slow.
I mean,
that I feel more.
You're totally allowed. It's just such a slight song compared to the opulent masterfulness of "Do Me Baby" for me. Like if you don't like 7-minute ballads, you're not going to like "Do Me Baby." But Prince taught me to.
But actually, there are 7-minute ballads that I love from him. Like I love "Insatiable."
"Insatiable" is definitely wouldn't exist without "Do Me Baby."
No, I understand that, and for that alone, I kind of can forgive. So I was about to say can forgive.
No, it's funny. You do have. What's funny is like you do have like such a thing against this particular ballad, don't you? Because I think I finally got you to like realize that "Adore" is quite a good song, right?
See, it's like, and this is the thing: is like "Adore." I will give you. I was wrong about "Adore." I gave "Adore" a listen. This I find so saccharine and so kind of.
You have to lean into it.
It's boiling the bag sexuality for me, but
it's Prince leaning into it and parodying it and celebrating it at the same time for me. And
I get why people love it, because like I've been in an arena where he hits a few notes of the piano and the falsetto scream is just like amazing. I know it's not for me, like in that sense, and which is why it just falls like a hole for me in this album, and like it would be if it wasn't such a long hole. Like my attention.
Can we just rewind the tape? If it wasn't such a long hole, please, Chopin. Listen.
Oh my God!
Listen to
know what I'm saying. Oh my God! I can't. So this is Carry On PPUK.
We should totally do like an outtakes.
Oh my God, this is like a Benny Hill version.
Yeah, it's perfectly appropriate. This song is this song in this era is all about this.
Do Me Baby.
Hey, hang on, Jack You Off's at the end of the bloody album. So you can't
exactly. Yeah, we can't. Yeah, like Do Me Baby is a gaping hole.
Yeah. No, it's the first time that we do see this character come out of Prince. And I say a character because it's definitely part of his persona, but it's the first time we really see him start to step into it and exaggerate it and kind of become that. And that be something that when you buy a Prince ticket, a part of him that you really want to see.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I would. I'm 100% with you on that. And I guess...
It had to happen, Chopin. It just had to happen.
Many horrible things did have to happen before the good things happened. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, I agree with all of this. I agree it's foundational. It's important. Does that make it a good listen for me? It doesn't. But does that mean I would want to take it off the album? Selfishly, yes, but because I think you could still make the other ones without having released this. But actually... In the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's there, so there's no point wishing it wasn't.
How are you going to fill that 7 minutes then, Chopin? If you took out this, what would you put in to fill that 7 minutes?
It would just make sexuality 11 minutes. I know the answer.
No. I guess I would have put Lisa, like the outtake from Dirty Mind, on there. Lisa, let's go to the movie.
Lisa's great, but it's a one idea jam. It's really great. Don't get me wrong. But
in terms of tracking the album, no, I think it's perfect.
I mean, like I really wouldn't. I would put whatever slow one was lying around at the time. I can't think of any slow ones.
Whatever slow one was not Do Me Baby. You've just really got it in for Do Me Baby. You're very Do Me Babyist. But
proudly.
Yeah, no, I know it's all good. I
get it.
I also think I love the weird top heavy aspect of this album as well. You've got the A side is 3 tracks, 2 long tracks and a short one in the middle. It's very strange. And then the B side, which we're about to get round to, listeners, believe me, is these 5 little punchy things.
I might say something that might make people feel better about this. I love that Prince does a 1-2, like fast, slow. He does it in his concerts too. He does it in his albums. Thunder Daddy, Pop Diamonds and Pearls. There's that fast, slow thing that he always does. It's a great flow, and I love that people love this. I always say, even if I don't like something, I love being. I was a great feeling being in that arena and hearing that shrill excitement around, that kind of that real frenzied excitement around me. It was a nice gig, and I love that people love this. It's just me, and I understand that I am very, very much in the minority.
I think when Do Me Baby came up live, it always sounded like a real warm old friend, and it always warmed the atmosphere up, and it was a very nice pair of big cozy I don't know what I'm saying now, big cozy gloves to step into. What? Anyway, I don't know.
I also know I've never written anything that compares to it. So let's I know my place. No. I know my place when I'm criticizing it. Yeah.
No. Chopin, you're totally. I criticize loads of stuff. We're not here to say we don't have a voice because we can't make that music. We're here to say, as listeners, we have preferences.
Yeah.
As a listener, you're qualified.
Yeah.
Are you qualified?
I'm much more. I get back on the album for the next one when we go into side B.
Let's do it then. Side B, guys. Here we come.
Private Joy. Anybody want to go first on this one? Paddy, you got the look on his face, excited. Me, miss.
So,
Gun.
This one's a bit special, because I think this is the one that really pointed, let's say, for a certain reason, at 1999. This is the foot in the door, possibly, of the Minneapolis sound, I would go as far as to say, because this is the first track that he used with a full Lindrum all the way through. And it hasn't got, I don't think there's any organic Bobby's playing, but it's all Lindrum. So, of course, the Lindrum was a huge part of 1999, and the sounds from the Lindrum were obviously the basis for a serious number of aspects of what became to be considered the Minneapolis sound. Again, he does the same motif yet again. Single note. I mean, there is a melody line and there is a bass line, but there is also the single note, the single piano note. Then. And it just breaks it out for this album repeatedly, and I absolutely love it. I don't know. Another one that wasn't played enough live. There are a few recordings of it on the Controversy tour, which it's an absolutely fabulous live track. I'm absolutely befuddled as to why he didn't play this more. It's an interesting thing. We talk about the albums and how Andy was considering. I can't remember who said what now. The ideas of the first two being a pair, and then we moved on to the first three. In terms of gigs and tours, the sort of set list that he had on this tour from these 4 albums, I thought was a really, really solid set list in terms of dynamics of songs. Wasn't too short, wasn't too long. Some fantastic songs. And then, in a sense, it sort of muddied the waters in an extremely good way when he moved into having the songs from his 5th album, 1999. But Private Joy was the one that, for me, bridges most into 1999 and is the spring 3/4 of the way up the mountain that develops and builds into the wide river that lots of other artists sailed up the Minneapolis sound on, for me.
Ooh, that was beautiful.
Thank you. I have my moments, not many.
I have my moments. That was lovely. Who can follow that?
Leah?
Okay. I love this track. Absolutely love it. It makes me happy every single time I hear it. If I ever just need a little pick-me-up, I feel like this is one of those songs that could just make me happy regardless of what's happening. And one of the reasons is, and it's the same with Jack You Off a little bit later, there's this undercurrent of American rock and roll, and it kind of surfaces quite a lot about this album. And I know it's kind of talking about politics and it is talking about current situations throughout the whole album. So it does kind of make sense that it has this kind of Americana rock and roll vibe to it. But it always feels Private Joy and Jack You Off, the melodies feel to me almost like nursery rhymes. They feel like they should be American rock and roll songs that we already know. Like if you played them and I didn't already know who Prince was or anything like that, I would be like, oh, did this person use the music from an old American song, or is this a cover in some way, shape or form? Has it been manipulated from a song that already existed? It feels to me just like new rock and roll, and it has this Americana embedded in it that is perfect because that's exactly what this album is about. It's his first sort of outward look at America and the world. But I always feel like there's this little bit of Elvis, and I know I kind of mentioned the Elvis in the middle of Sexuality, but it feels to me like it kind of resurfaces again in Private Joy and Jack You Off. And it's just done in this really new way, which I absolutely love. I don't know if you've kind of picked up on that at all or if it's just me.
I could imagine Elvis singing this.
If it was swung, I could imagine Elvis doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, my little private joy, my private joy.
Anybody
But
you belong to Elvis.
I didn't hear it until you said, until I thought about it in that swung rhythm. I hear it, I know what you're talking about, Americana, but I would say Jack You Off is definitely, horrible old rock and roll, as a reviewer said of the Jack You Off performance on the Lovesexy tour. And he wasn't saying it derogatory. It's template rock and roll, just done cheap and nasty in a cool new way. And Private Joy is that, but bubblegum pop, isn't it? But still very Americana. That's the bubblegum pop to Jack You Off's rock and roll. As
a sonic kind of landscape, the way that they kind of, I love the way the voices, it's that climb out of the voices, that joy. Like the way that climbs out is just, I love it. Love it.
No, I mean, this song is pure, unadulterated talent from start to finish. I mean, it's just I loved when Kylie Minogue first came out as a pop star. Sounds wrong, you know what I mean. When she first emerged as a pop star, and she was like the Stock Aitken Waterman. Paddy's lost it. She emerged as the Stock Aitken Waterman poster girl with "I Should Be So Lucky." Like long before she was a cool pop star, she was interviewed in Smash Hits, and she said she loves Prince. They said, "What's your favorite Prince song?" She said, "Private Joy." Always loved her for that. Yeah, absolutely. Really? Yeah. Back in literally 90, 88, 89, whatever it was. She loved Private Joy. And you can see why, because it's so perfectly bubblegum. What I love about it, it's a song that any other artist would have killed for, would have released as a single. And Prince does it for about 2 minutes and then breaks it and throws it away. Because, why, guys? He's Prince. He does it, and then he just starts squirting guitar all over it. Weird machine breakdown noises that do not belong in that milieu at all. Just saying, see what I can do, see what's going to come, see what I'm going to do next year, the year after that. I've got loads of stuff to come. Don't even need this. Could do this. Don't want to do this.
I always saw it as like a political statement from him in that context. The whole album is, talking about tourists and all the bubblegum stuff, when actually there's this dirt and grit underneath, and what's really happening, war and sexuality and all that stuff. And I always feel like he's gone, here's this pop stuff and all the candy stuff, here's some grime for you. And I feel like that's why that section is so small. It's kind of almost two fingers up, like, oh, here's to the main industry and here's to everything else that everyone else does, here's where it's really at. And I feel like if it had been longer, it wouldn't have achieved that. But that short little burst, it almost feels like he's going, yeah, we can do all this, but here's where it's really at.
But I love that bit in, like, that if anybody asks you, you belong to Prince. It's like the kind of the start that really claiming that kind of, like, that's the persona that he brought on stage. It's like...
Is this the first use of his own name in a lyric?
That I can think about. There might be earlier ones, so none come immediately to mind.
I think it might be.
First time he says Prince in a...
Yeah, in a song lyric. I think a friend was once asking on a forum online about songs that name check the band or artist, right? And I was thinking about it, just out of all artists. It's a thing that happens in rap a lot. You get loads of call outs to the artists and their actual names, right? And they use their names and they play with their names. Prince did it quite a lot over the years, more than, more than most non-rap artists, I would say.
I would agree. And I think probably the reason behind that is because he was given a name that has other connotations and other meanings.
Yeah.
And so to kind of establish himself as Prince, 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 I feel like he kind of enforced that to kind of establish himself and individuality.
Also, he wrote a lot of songs and he needed some lyrics. But you're absolutely right. He wasn't, it would have been a very different story if it had been Tony Nelson, wouldn't it, or Jason Nelson? It would what an actual magical final touch. That little baby pops out and we'll call him Prince. Oh, there you go. You're on your way. I think Private Joy is. There's nothing bad to be said about this fellow, right?
Nothing bad. And even I got to say that, like, I'd listened to the Come album first, so the guitar solo at the end is, as most people know, is on the track underneath the track Orgasm, and which ends the Come album. So when that guitar started going off, I was just like, this is yes, because that's one of my favorite albums. It's like knowing that this is a throwback to here, and like learning how that track was created. It was just like, okay, this is a great song, an absolutely great little bop, and then it's just like this guitar noise that I'm already familiar with and love is what takes it out.
I love that you got it that way round. That's really great.
Yeah, I listened to Come first before this, and it was just like I was aware. I got that this must be a reference. That the Come must be Orgasm must be a reference to this. But it was a nice little familiarity on the record that was just like, oh god. And then it goes into Running Talk to Russia.
This is another on a nursery rhyme.
This is just a trash nursery rhyme, just done recorded in a scrap heap. That's great. I love it. It's mental.
As a part of the whole, it's more of a fascinating little piece, I suppose. It's interesting that there's something directly and more sort of iteratively political, but again, I think the word bubblegum's been used a couple of times, and that's a good word for several songs on this album. And I think this is sort of a bubblegum proto Sign of the Timesy type of approach to perhaps a song. There is a cartoon quality to it, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
And it sounds like something that they sort of, I don't know, he'd been watching the news and they were just jamming a groove or something, and then they just. He put this together, and do you know what? Sod it, I'm going to put it on the album, even though it's like only a couple of minutes long.
It's interesting to listen to now as well under the current climate.
Yeah, it's also interesting that he kind of sonically murders the song at the end of the song after 2 minutes. It's like it's almost like he's dragged this little nursery rhyme out the back to kind of put it out of its misery, so to speak. I love it.
It's interesting. I never saw it as that. I always saw it as Russia blowing up the world at the end of the song.
Yeah, but it's also the second song he's murdered in a row. Like on the first, but in half the length of Controversy, the track itself, he's just pulled out 2 songs and killed them both off.
Yeah.
Which is the total opposite of sitting on a groove for 7.5, 8 minutes that never ceases. This side B just starts exploding and imploding all over itself,
Yeah, and here's the thing as well. This song, as much as Controversy and Dooney Baby have their legacies, this song has its legacies as well in songs like No More Candy for You and Tonight I Love Everybody and Everybody Loves Me. It's like...
The one I was thinking of, which I've never thought until now, but this is like a very, very, very prototype and it's the cartoon from which Dance On grew. And Dance On is sublime. Because this is like all the elements of just like a political sort of nursery rhyme that's got heaps and heaps of sonic explosion and percussion and clatter. But this is all absolutely cookie cutter on the 16 beat or on the 8 beat, right? Then it's put through this kind of refining machine of Prince's maturity and all the directions he's taken. And it comes out absolutely reconstituted and as something mature and extraordinary as Dance On, it seems to me.
Yeah. It's a much nicer branch than No More Candy for You and Tonight I Love Everybody, because
definitely.
But you're right in that he's got a couple of these kind of like the cartoonish things, and I'm not entirely sure that they're not like I would put them. I can see the link back to this one as well.
I'd put it quite closely with things like Horny Toad and
the Rockabilly.
And
oh yeah, and what's the other one? Sorry,
Glam Slam and Horny Toad.
And Can't Stop This Feeling I Got.
Yeah, it's
the kind of rockabilly.
Yeah, and I mean around this time, Delirious as well, and No Call You, and all of that good stuff. But yeah, why put Ronnie Talk to Russia on the album? I mean, I love it just because it's a transition, and because it's about to explode into an absolute monster track. It's like, you know, it's worth it just for that meltdown, and then shut the fuck up. Here's Let's Work.
One of the best bass lines he's ever come up with.
Full stop, right?
100%. That bass line is immense.
Also, and when he was interviewed with the Bass Guitar Magazine, I believe he said that they thought that he was asking about which bass line of yours is your favorite, and he said that this one was because nobody played it like him, and the slinkiness of it is, it's so good. It's
for me, this is the part of the trilogy on this album. So you've got Controversy, which is the sort of up-tempo, proto-techno, slightly more synthy, sort of funk tune, the archetypal Prince tune. You've got Do Me Baby, which is this building, this is, you know, how I'm going to do ballads. This is a more mature ballad that's longer and so on and so forth. And then you've got a stomping, only Prince could do it this way, funk track, the key word being stomping, and that's a certain thing with Prince. And to me, those three songs are kind of the three pillars of this album that are definitely not cartoon, that are solid artifacts of a time where he was developing something and building something that will become his huge estate.
This is a huge part of the Minneapolis sound, isn't it? The synth, just the big synth slabs on this song, the way they punch in and out, the way they fit around, the way they come in, dance around the end of the instrumental after chorus, and then come out again, drop out again. That's like all paving the way for the time and that part of the Minneapolis sound. It's so tight. So texturally, it's yeah, I agree. This is a real building block for him.
I don't think I'm as mad on this song as the rest of you.
Get out, go to your room.
Okay, you were tolerant and you listened to me on Do Me Baby, so I'm duty bound to listen to you, but tread carefully. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Go ahead.
I don't dislike it. I'm not as hard as you were with Do Me Baby. I don't.
Not many people.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I love the bass line. I agree. I think it's one of the best bass lines he's ever written. And I really enjoy this song when it comes on at Prince Pies and it's really, really loud. I get into it then. But when it comes on a shuffle playlist or something like that, I listen to the bass, and even like the 12-inch, because the bass goes on for longer. You got that longer introduction where the bass just kind of goes, and I stay with it. And then when the vocals come in,
wow,
I skip. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's amazing to me. Again, Let's Work is one of those songs that I'm never anything other than utterly delighted to hear. Wow, you know, that's all good. It's all good.
When it's really loud at a party or something, I absolutely adore it. It's got this really brilliant way of bringing people together, and it's kind of got that chorus that is almost like a chant, and everyone's kind of chanting along, and I love it in that context. But when I'm just at home or going about my business and it comes on, it just doesn't quite hit the spot for me as a casual listening track.
I don't know what to tell you. Oh, Chopin's being nice.
No, I can understand why. Like one scenario would be like you totally get it, and one scenario where you would be like, okay, I get that this is a good song, but this is not for now. I can understand that, but when you got it on and you're walking down the street with headphones on, try catwalk modeling.
Banging.
Try catwalk modeling to it. It is like it might as well have been spelled WERK. You know, like let's work. You know, let's work because I'm telling you, like I'm stomping heel to toe when I'm walking there. Let's work.
Wasn't it actually Prince wanted it to be spelled FUCK? He wanted to call it Let's Fuck, didn't he? Have you heard that story?
Oh, did he?
I believe.
I've not heard that story.
I've certainly heard that from a few places that he wanted to call it Let's Fuck and the label wouldn't let him, and I'm really glad they didn't.
I think it would have distorted.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, in which case, why am I making up such filthy stories? But
it doesn't sound out of the. You know, he wanted to call Vanity Vagina.
Oh yeah,
it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Prince wanted to call something Let's Fuck.
Not even
we
slightly.
can fuck. Yeah,
but maybe now I'm doubting myself. What? Let's go. It doesn't matter because it's not called that. But you're right. It could be spelt with a WERK, and that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's worked. Because it's almost like to be real. You know, like it's.
Yeah.
It takes it somewhere different. It's a disco. You know, like what you think? No, you know, like I have my eyes on you.
And then another of those early Prince tracks, long before he used horns, where you've just got the synths doing brilliant horn lines, essentially. Wow. You know, and they just sound terrific on synth because of his arrangements and the way they swell and pop in and out. And again, you know, a big part of the Minneapolis sound for sure. It's I don't know what to say about that, Leah. You're allowed.
I'm sorry.
You're allowed. And by the way,
the place of love.
The 12-inch is just great because there's more of it. But the 12-inch does have a couple of really shonky edits on it, which is weird, which I'm absolutely fine with because it's just like it's punky in its way. But I wonder why the edits are quite so bad as they are on that version. I think it's when it goes into the extended bit, the transition is could have been done by a 4-year-old. And then there's when he starts sampling himself for the first time, probably he puts a sample of Controversy and Annie Christian in there, and it's kind of like so amateur that it becomes charming actually, but it does take you out of the groove for half a moment.
Doesn't he do a sample of Sexy Dancer in there as well?
I think he does.
It's almost like the origins of bat dance.
Yeah.
Wait, well, another proto thing. Well,
there's a lot of first on this
tape edits are hard. You know, tape edits are a lot harder than Pro Tools edits. That's all I'll say on that.
That is true, but like, it's rare to find edits that are as bad as that on most pro records of the time, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but then I think he was working at a much faster pace with a lot less critical thinking, like behind it. And I think there's like, you know, there's something to be said about like the perfectionist Prince, and there is an element of that, but there's a lot of kind of messy kind of ends of artworks, edits and stuff like that as well.
It's kind of audacious. I like it, you know.
But also, if the tapes, but you know, if the sample you've got is running at the wrong time speed and you've taped it in, there's that other physical thing about working with tape that, like, you got this sample that you're cutting in, and then you realize that actually it's not as exact in the tape speed.
Yeah.
Even if you've done a really exact edit, it sounds chunky.
Oh, for sure.
As well.
Mean, he just they're just glaring. That's all.
Yeah,
the 12-inch is magnificent. So, you know, Prince, you're allowed.
Oh, more than.
Actually, I think I prefer the 12-inch.
You prefer more of the song you don't like very much. I get it. No, I understand.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it.
You've got a strange relationship with Let's Work, Leah.
This is true. That'd be a great segue if that was the next track, but it's not.
You have to wait a couple of albums for that one.
But the next track is, in fact,
Annie Christian.
Oh, yeah.
I love this track. It's so bizarre and it's so atonal and it's that that in no key, and there's this the thing in the again, like with sexuality, the breakdown is fantastic when it just goes into that this driving thing. It's like this strange thing finally finds its groove just as it's ending.
I think "Strange Thing" is a brilliant description of it. Actually, it is just a strange little beast, isn't it?
And I thought it worked really well live, which if I'd listening to the album, I was just like, how the fuck are you going to do this live? And then
This is what I'm saying about the Controversy tour, the potential on that tour. I mean, he did throw this in now and again. It was such a well-balanced set of songs from this first 4 albums. It was really underrated. Well, I'm saying that. No, other people may like it as well, but I think because what came after became so definitive that I think people kind of lost how good live this kind of stuff was, if you know what I mean. For me, this is like a bit of a sort of dark anomaly. I love it, like what you say about the atonal stuff and the way that it starts with I think it's a bit of a sort of drum machine thing initially, and then it's kind of like a bit of a sort of Nightmare Fuel fever dream-ish thing, and then goes into this atonal. It's almost rant's the wrong word, but obviously he's talking about very specific issues, and I don't know, the way it's not so much that he's doing it, it's the way he's executing it. It's just really anomalous for me, is this one. But that's what makes it absolutely brilliant, and that's what makes it typical of Prince.
I like that intro that you were just talking about where da, 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 da. You don't know where it's going to land and start punching you.
Yeah.
It's like,
but you know it is.
Oh,
that's the thing is you don't doubt that it's going to land on something good when you hear it.
Oh, it's this is just prime exquisite, extraordinary, brilliant Prince for me. Like, this is the sister song or a cousin song of Bob George. This is a cousin of Tambourine in a funny way. It's just a little funky, shuffling, weird artifact. There's that word again. But what else? There's others. There's nothing that.
My Little
like
Pill had you. Those like strange, just little 2 minutes of weirdness.
But even for me, the ones that have got drums in as well. So like Bob George, Tambourine. There's another one that I've just.
This is far more developed than those 2 songs.
Yeah. But like. This one, this is just from All the Critics. This is like a precursor of All the Critics for me. This is just like angry, weird genius in a room at night, railing against something urgent, and like, like All the Critics is like in my top 20 Prince songs. Full stop.
It's amazing
because it's amazing, and Annie Christian. Bob George is too, actually. Annie Christian probably isn't, but it's probably in my top 30. But maybe it's in my top 20 or sometimes. It's all intent and attitude and stuff that no one else. It's just a way of seeing the world that no one else has. It kills me dead. It's like, the flat tone. I'll live my life in taxi cabs. It's frightening, It's like, what? Yeah. It's just like, it's a mad drive down the highway at night with no lights on or something. It's Fight Club, it's Fight Club.
I want to do a playlist of those songs now that you've said that. Like, I want to listen to those 2 back to back. I want to listen to Annie Christian and All the Critics back to back now. That's
seriously.
Sorry, what were you saying, Leah? I interrupted.
It kind of has essence of those kind of weird Kate Bush album tracks. When you think of like Waking the Witch and things like that.
Yeah.
They kind of have a similar feel to me. But one thing that did just hit me, which I didn't realise, is in my head, I thought that it was one of the short tracks. And actually, I've just gone on Spotify to see how long it is, and it's 4 minutes 22. And in my head,
it doesn't feel like it at all.
No.
Yeah, no, I had it down as like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, not approaching 4.5 at all.
That surprises me too. It feels like 2.5 because it just keeps moving and it's kinetic.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, there was a kid at school, right, who he wasn't a Prince fan particularly, But for some reason, I guess we were playing Controversy, and he heard Annie Christian, and he fell for it so hard. He made a 90-minute cassette tape of wall-to-wall Annie Christian, both sides, and would just sit on the bus to games and stuff, listening to Annie Christian over and over. It just
this kind of gives me a
obsessed
Stranger Things, like like at the end of Stranger Things, like
again that Kate Bush thing.
Exactly. They're like that's all that witchy kind of. This is the song that's protecting him from the demon or something. That's great.
This is probably his first truly unclassifiable song. Maybe Sexuality, actually. Sexuality's... This takes it a bit further, but like, I think... I don't know. I'm saying that. Paddy's looking convinced. I think Controversy contains his first truly unclassifiable stuff, and at the apex of that would be Annie Christian and Sexuality for me.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah, I'd go with that because I'm trying to think of stuff on. The only thing that would be undefiable would be stuff on Dirty Mind, and even things like Sister are kind of still within the realms of rockabilly. Like
Sister starts to push it a bit, Head pushes it a bit, but I think it gets weirder on this one. I mean, I think Head is one of his greatest songs. That's in my top 20.
It's still still got like kind of, sidelines to like Funkadelic and stuff. But yeah, you're right. This is true experimental.
Can I just take a moment to say, and I like to think about this from time to time, and maybe I'm making a point that I really like Prince. I'm really, really, really into Prince, guys.
Yeah, it's all right.
I mean, he's no Michael Jackson. No, I'm joking.
Oh, dear.
No. I put myself in the fire line enough for Do Me Baby. I'm not going down that direction. But he's like, this is the thing. It's like how we've spent longer talking about the album than it takes to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like there's more to say about the album than just to play it and listen to it. Very much so. And that's even without going into like the artwork itself and what's written in the artwork, the newspapers.
And this is after we've all had decades to digest it.
Yeah.
But again, it rewards decades. It stands up. It's great art. And
then you take that kind of airy, menacing sound, and you kind of like Jack and Jill went up the hill. Yeah. You kind of Jack and Jill went up the hill to to a rockabilly beat.
Yeah, to fetch a quote unquote pail of water. Yeah,
exactly. It's like
bring out what's been in me for far too long. Come on.
Exactly, and that only takes 2 minutes or so. Does it even take 2 minutes?
3 minutes 9.
Yeah.
Oh, I think of it as like 2 minutes. Maybe that's even shorter than I thought.
Jack you off, guys. What do you reckon? Well, it's not an offer. It's I invite to discussion.
Do you know what?
Paddy's lost it again. Paddy's in a very, very, very filthy mood tonight.
We're not even doing double entendres. We're doing like single entendres.
Just like single entendres.
It's true. We're just talking about sex.
The spirit of Kenneth Williams and Sid James is just with us tonight.
Exactly. I'm feeling very Barbara Windsor myself, but it's. The first time I heard this, I remember, was on the BBC Omnibus. I think they were repeating it or something, or playing it. And this was before I was a Prince fan. I remember watching Top of the Pops and liking they showed Top of the Pops in that week, and it was brilliant. And later that night, my sister really wanted to watch the Prince Omnibus. And I think this was 91, 92. I hadn't got into Prince yet because it was her copy. She had a copy of Diamonds and Pearls that I hadn't listened to. So she was getting into a kind of like, oh, Prince is kind of cool phase. And I was like, okay, I'll watch this with you because I really enjoyed the Madonna Omnibus. And I remember my dad tuning in, hearing that clip of Jack You Off from Love Sexy tour that I now know is the Love Sexy tour, and then I think it was from the Dirty Mind in Paris or something, and then kind of like going, no, we're not watching this. And that's all I knew about Prince. And I remember listening to that song. So it was one of those songs I knew before I was a fan. And when I finally got to kind of listen to the Love Sexy version and the one on the album, it's like, oh, okay, this is what the whole song sounds like. And it was like, there's not much more than that first little kind of, I'll jack you up. But I still loved it. It was just still, it's still, because it got such a reaction, like from someone that they had to turn it off immediately and turn it over immediately. So you're not listening to it. I think I was like one of those things. I was more attracted to it than if I'd just found it myself.
I always found it interesting, having listened back to the night he got booed off supporting the Rolling Stones. He plays like, he does Bambi without using a falsetto. So it just struck me, right? So like, it's insane as Prince, even when he was young, absolutely batshit crazy. So he does his guitar track without using the falsetto, and you think, well, at least he's got his head on and he's thinking, right, I'm going to do what I can to appeal without sort of bastardizing what I do. But then he just does jack you off, and there was never going to be any other result from that crowd in that stadium at that time who were there for that headline band. But it's like, oh my God, you're fucking awesome for just doing it. I don't care. It's just the most awesome thing ever.
Out of interest, did he make it as far as getting to the line, as a matter of fact, you can jack me off by any chance?
If I remember correctly, he walked off after Jack You Off, and then the band played a bit of Uptown sort of instrumentally, and then it all just sort of fell apart. But yeah, you got to admire him. I mean, God, just in terms of
I think that was the second night as well.
Yeah.
That's why he did the, because that recording, I think, is from the second night, because that's when he kind of like, which was interesting, because I think he may have made the decision to go, okay, I won't sing in falsetto. Like, probably tried it the first night, got booed, thought, I'll do it in low key. And everybody was like, you can hear someone in the crowd going, oh, well, this is all right. And then it's like, oh. And then Jack You Off comes on, it's like, oh.
It confuses me that people can show up being a Mick Jagger fan and then find Prince too camp or whatever they think.
I don't think it was that. I think he wasn't allowed to be like that because he was black.
Yeah, there's that. And there's
I think it was a race thing, I'll be honest.
I think it was a race thing. And then there was also, however shocking Mick Jagger and the boys were back in the day, had just become part of Canon and Toothless as well. Or not Toothless, but it's become establishment in a way that Prince was the next new things. You know, those same people who threw stuff at Prince and his band, if they'd seen the Stones if they'd been 20 years younger, 25 years younger and seen the Stones, they might have felt the same way. It's that sort of mentality that was scared of the new thing. But by the time the Stones are into the 80s, they're not the new thing. But I think massive racial element,
I imagine if half the fans that were at the Purple Rain tour, if they'd just seen that one performance, would probably be one of the people going, boo.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't until later when they realised.
He found a way to make himself palatable and to cross over, but he did have to cross over in that, you know, in that racially music divided America. He certainly wasn't going to do it in bikini briefs and with this. And I mean, just he was.
Which is ironic when you realise that Rolling Stones is essentially kind of
absolutely
black music.
Of course, it's all
it's so ironic.
When you're dealing with idiots, there's a lot of irony.
Well,
you know. When you're dealing with ignorance. To come back to the song for a moment, this is fine by me. It's not anything other than fine. Fine plus, but like I don't particularly like the synth toms that kind of introduce this song, and it, like, in comparison to everything else on the album, this is the only one that feels flat-footed to me and a bit lumbery and cumbersome. But hey, it's a throwaway piece of nonsense, and it's a fine way to get out of this album.
And it's a strange little song is an appropriate way to end this strange album.
Yeah, definitely.
I just think you can't go wrong with it in a way. A little rock and roll, like it's just lovely. I think it's sort of too sweet to be overly shocking in a way. It's done with a very much a nod and a wink and a grin.
It's silly. It's a bit of silliness.
Silly. Yeah.
It is kind of a curate's egg of an album, isn't it? Because Dirty Mind essentially has one very cohesive sound, and Controversy is starting to introduce a whole bunch of fragments and elements.
Controversy's all over the place, but it's slightly more limited by the sounds and the technology at the time, I think, is Controversy. That's where it comes across to me. And possibly the band that he had at the time and how evolved they were playing together and so on and so forth.
Sorry.
No, go on, it's cool.
I'm just thinking about another first on the Controversy album. Does anyone know what I'm thinking of in relation to Jack You Off?
Is it going to be the spelling?
It's the first spelling of it's the first Prince Bonnets, they used to be called. Yeah. He doesn't even do it on Ronnie Talk to Russia. 2 is spelt T-O. But the very first Prince idiosyncrasy spelling is in Jack You Off.
Yeah.
And is there a song with the word you in on Dirty Mind? What am I thinking
of? Let me have a look. I'm going to have a look.
Can't think straight. Maybe there's not, but anyway, if there is, that it's spelt fully. Oh yeah, no, of course there is. It's When You Were Mine. That's the difference between Dirty Mind and Controversy. When You Were Mine is YOU.
Yeah.
And then Jack You Off is the first U, and it's like, oh, hello, another piece of the puzzle falls into place. It's brilliant. It's
there's I Feel For You as well. That's a U, YOU.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
so I'm, not to be too antagonistic, but I'm going to kind of dig into my heels with my earlier assumption that this is the start of a new 3 thing. That this is kind of part of Prince's solidifying an identity over the next 3 albums to become a star. In the sense that the first 3 albums are him finding the ingredients. The next 3 albums are about taking those ingredients and making the star out of him.
No, Dirty Mind is the album where he finds is the first. I got to go with the fault line where Paddy puts it. Dirty Mind is the breakthrough, and then it's all development from there. For me.
Yeah, I fall on that side. I think the bit where I would concede is I think it's obvious that on Controversy he's using components from all 3 other albums.
That's what I'm saying.
He's doing that, but the one that was the quantum leap for Prince being Prince was Dirty Mind.
Yeah, that's the new bit, right?
I think so as well. Yeah, but again, it's all very subjective. So yeah, Controversy album. The thing that struck me about it when you guys have been talking about it and me thinking about what you're saying when you're saying it is just how it's eclectic in a slightly different way. It's not eclectic like Sign of the Times is eclectic. It feels like it's eclectic within a sort of narrower band of sonic possibilities. But it is really, really eclectic. I love the idea of the sort of trilogy within the album and then a few sort of curated oddities. It's fun. I mean, not that I didn't come into this absolute loving this album. I completely did. I think it's underrated because it sits between 2 absolute mammoth albums.
Masterpieces, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just that. I think it's also that Purple Rain, 1999, so much so has its own identity, and Dirty Mind so much so has its own identity, and they're completely different. Whereas for me, Controversy sits in the middle, and it's a little blend of both sides.
Yeah,
true.
And so it kind of gets lost, I think. So when
I think it's that as well. Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, to me, that maybe the most important factor to me is the daffy, wacky, mad Prince that's introduced in Controversy, because that's a really important piece of the gun that is assembling for 1999, the Battleship.
The other thing about the album, I think this is the first one where you can hear he's starting to grow up without being too tacky. He's starting to grow up on this album and think in broader planes. I remember Susan Rogers talking extremely passionately about Sign of the Times. Of course you would. But she said the difference was when he opened with In France, the Skinny Man Died of a Big Disease with a Little Name on stage when he's doing...
Yeah.
And she said that was a huge leap because that was Prince the man as opposed to Prince the boy. Definitely. He said everything that came before that was Prince the boy. That was Prince the man. To me, this was the first step in that journey.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's. I always kind of like put this album alongside, say, like Around the World in a Day. That is one of those albums that sits between like kind of heavyweight albums, but contains heavyweight songs, but isn't always classed as a heavyweight album, but is amazing, just like Around the World in a Day.
This is the thing. If I've said that about It Sits Between Two Mammoths, in my opinion, I'm being careful before I actually say this. I'm processing before I say this. But I think Dirty Mind and 1999 don't have a song on them as strong as Controversy the song.
Ooh, that's interesting.
That's a different podcast.
And that's the perfect way to end. That's a different podcast. So everybody, thank you for being with us on this journey of this transitional journey of this album. Thank you for everyone. Thank you all, Paddy, Leah, Andy, for being involved. And we'll hope to see you on the next one. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Keep busting.
Cheers. Good night.